Hi everyone, and welcome to my endgame Whirlwind Barbarian guide. This is my character for ladder season 13, with all the warlocks and whatnot going around nuking things this season. I would like to remind everyone that Barbarian is the best class in the game. Now, how does this class work? I'll show you the gear first. And, of course, you have to run a grief. Griefs are really strong. Easily, everyone knows it's the best melee weapon. Could opt for Breath of Dying, could opt for Death, could opt for Beast, Death, but nothing actually, when you run the DPS calcs, comes close to tried and true Grief in the Phase Blade. And this is my second roll of it, and I had it in a 14 ED Superior base. And it hasn't rolled super great yet, but I'm pretty happy with it. It does the job no matter what. And in our offhand, we have Beast in a Berserker Axe. Now, why Beast? Well, there's a few reasons for it, and I'll get there. But this is also a Magic Find Barb, and he's pushing on swap with his Alibarbas, Istid Alibarbas. We are pushing 600 MF, and that could easily hit 600 with a few more tweaks. We also run the 37 FCR breakpoint. I think when you're telling around between mobs and you're like telling between packs super quick and killing them, you don't really need to go higher than this. If you do want to telly faster for, say, Baal waves, chaos runs, that type of thing, you can just swap Ali Barber out or for a Whiz Spike or two Whiz Spikes if you want to hit the 105 FCR. Now check this out. This has got to be the craziest headpiece you've ever seen that I'm running. Bang. Brimstone Circlet. Coronet, ironically. And I found this. I traded for it. And it's not a 230 20 FCR, but it's damn close. So it's 2 skills, 30 fast run walk, 10 FCR. And we make up for that with one of our rings to hit this at 37 breakpoint. And our belt. I also put in the Protector Stone. Protector Stone gives you pierced enemy damage, enemy physical resistance, and it also gives you XP gain, gold find, magic find, and it does give you enhanced damage and flat damage. Now, unfortunately, the way physical damage jewels work in this game is they don't work unless you put them in a weapon. That is if it has flat damage and enhanced damage on top of it. So Blizzard, please fix the Protector Stone jewel. This is the worst case scenario. If you put it in a helm, you're missing out on the ED and the extra damage. Best case scenario, you put it in a weapon and it applies through the weapon's damage, and that's how you get the most out of it. But, of course, if you want to use 2 rune word weapons, you have to put it in your helm. So forget about the damage and just focus on the pierce and the XP gain. And for me, I'm doing the Chronicle this season, so I want a lot of magic finds. I wanted to make sure I got one with high MF, and so it rolls up to 35 magic find, and this is a very solid, well-rounded roll, I reckon. And of course, it also has the 5% experience gain, which is awesome for getting to 99 too. And so we used to just put a Cham in the helm for Cannot Be Frozen if you wanted to do that, and then we'd run our Gore Riders on the boots. However, this season, it's a bit different because we have to have the Protector Stone too, or we don't have to, but it's much preferred. It's very nice to have. And so, so this was a very difficult helmet to get. 2-socket FCR coronets. They're very sought after, especially with the run walk, so you can get around the game faster. So this is a big one for me to find. And then, of course, you could use Ravenfrost, right, as one of your rings. However, if you're a Hawk Barb, the cold damage on the Ravenfrost is going to upset you a lot. You're going to be shattering enemies, and you're not going to get the absolute most out of your Magic Find experience. So that's what I'm running on the helm. And of course, War Travelers for more Magic Find on the boots. And it's brilliant. Of course, you can also use Gore Rider if you want to do more damage, if you're doing some more serious enemy killing. And on the rings, we have an Opal Vein. This is where I get my 10 FCR combined with my Geed's Wager, which has 19 FCR. So you ideally only need to have it at 17 FCR, but this is a very nice roll. It can roll up to 20 run walk, 20 FCR, 20 fast hit recovery, and I think it rolls up to 8 or 10 magic resistance pierce, and that's also good for your berserk if you need to on some really troublesome enemies in terms of their physical resistance, maybe stone skin. And so yeah, very, very nice belt. I think I'm going to see a lot of people realizing that you don't want to run Arax anymore because it just has too many good stats. And of course, on the other ring, we have this insanely nice craft that I made. 6 mana, 11 life, leech, nice 100 plus attack rating, 10 strength, 12 life. Very, very nice. That's to keep me alive while whirlwinding packs. Laying of Hands, the tried and true. Everyone knows that this gives you so much damage to demons, you kind of have to use them. Alternatively, you have, if you're going into undead areas, you can get your ghoul hides, where they are, where have I put them? Ghoul hides, that gives you a huge amount of damage to undead and attack rating, and some mana leech if you need it. So there's your alternative. There's also Grave Palm, it's also very, very strong. And of course, Enigma. We want to teleport around, that's just a given. And then to get our Deadly Strike up, we have High Lord's extra attack speed to get us to the break point. That in combination with Laying of Hands, you should get to easily with a single swing to the max break point with your Grief. And with the Beast, this is the reason I went for Beast, and it's that it has Crushing Blow. So I still needed Crushing Blow somewhere on the build to be efficient, especially in those higher player count games, and you're trying to get down those heralds that have like millions of health. And on top of that, sure, I could use 2 Griefs for optimal damage, but however, I wanted the Crushing Blow, and I also feel like when you're in lower player count games, being able to just boost the damage of your first hit on Grief actually kind of works better. It feels good. And also, the range adder difference between a Phase Blade and a Berserker Axe is that you can also get right into your enemy and you can hit them at different ranges, and it feels very effective to be like right on top of the enemy and do shorter whirls. If you're using a Berserker Axe versus a Phase Blade, you have to do a larger Dance of Death. Now, why am I not using 2 Berserker Axes? Well, I like the combination of those 2 range adders, but on top of that, it goes deeper with the build. So we have our Blades of Ali Barber, and they are Hydra edges, so I've upped them. And the reason for that is that, yes, they do a bit more damage, but when we take into account our Mercenary and the fact that we now use Dread Fang and we have our Amplify damage, it actually makes your damage insanely good, but it also allows you to hit enemies really easily. So you're just cutting through a hot knife through butter. And this is where it gets interesting. If you up your Ali Barbers, you can actually do the first kill wave on Trav with your Ali Barbers. So I'll do a little demonstration of that. So I'll bow. Let him hit amp. Hit him a little bit with your mains, give it a swap, and yeah, we'll just shred with our Ali Barbers. There's the amp damage, and yeah, you'll kill a little bit slower than your than with your Grief, but if you're thinking about budget, guys, this is something else. So he has Stone Skin, he's going to be a little tougher, but look how much more gold's dropping off these packs, right? So you're easily going to get another 100,000, 150k per run. And so the most I've come at in one run is like 300k. And I think it's a really nice trick that you can do now. And also, why not Reaper's Toll? I really don't like Reaper's Toll. I've never been a fan of it. It just bothers me that it only does like negative 33%, but it does do the slow. But on a Whirlwind Barb, I don't really think it matters. And further to that, well, what about losing your Might Aura from your Act 2 Mercenary? Well, that's also why I wanted the Fanaticism Aura on Beast, because that'll go back to upping my first hit Grief damage and doing tons of damage, and most things will die in one hit. So I think it's enough damage, and then with the Amplify, it's just way too good. And before I had I was running 2 Dread Fangs initially, and using double swing, and then starting to whirl. But now we can teleport straight onto an enemy. They immediately get hit. They have their amplified. You just start beyblading away, and it just works great. So the Mercenary's armor. He's just wearing Tower's armor. It doesn't matter too much. We've got Beast getting him to max breakpoint. I also gave him a Protector Stone in his sword, so he can also get me a little bit more extra experience if he gets the last hit, the 4%. It's got a bit of pierce, and yeah, it also adds quite a lot of damage. So the Dread Fang's now looking pretty beefy. And then we also have Andariel's Visage on the helm. It's not socketed at the moment, but it just needs the Life Leech, and the extra stats are always welcome. Now, getting into charms. We have our Annie and Torch, the usual. We have some max damage AR charms and some MF charms, and that's just to boost us up a little bit. Max damage Grand Charm, and then we have our Geed's Fortune, even more MF. And then we have a renewed Cold Rupture. And the reason I'm running this is because they're not really selling at the moment, firstly. But secondly, it also gives you a nice few stats. And it has 23 MF, which is lucky, because that immediately ends up working better than 3 Magic Find Small Charms. And Cold Resist isn't that necessary. So it's just sort of a bit of a meme, but actually it works pretty good. I might regret it if I die to a Cold Nova at some point, but it hasn't happened. And yeah. And then next we have our LOD Bone Break. This is to sunder enemies. And I used to dislike using Sunder Charm on physical builds because there's always a way around physical immunes. So for example, with the Barbarian, he has Berserk, so you can just convert to magic damage. However, with amplified damage, if they're sundered, it still works at 100% on sundered enemies, which means beforehand, when I didn't have the Bone Break, the enemies were going down, a lot faster than before. However, once they're sundered, it's just like they don't even have physical immunity. You're just completely tearing through them like everything else. So I finally think that Bone Breaks are good. Now, this is one from LOD, because good luck trying to, in this economy, get a Bone Break with all the Warlocks playing this season. So I wanted to go through the skills as well. Now, naturally, we are also trying to do Item Find and Whirlwind at the same time. So what we need to do is max Find Potion, and I preferably like to put enough points into Find Item so that we get to 72%, and then with BO it takes us over to 73. So you want to get to level 24. Personally, that's what I like. Some people like just putting 1 point into it until it stops giving you 1% per point. For me, I like to do it so it gives me a point every 2 points, and then once it starts taking 3 points per point, I think it's not worth it. Grim Ward, this ability is super useful against the heralds, so it makes enemies in the area take extra damage. It also makes them flee and slows them. So if you want to target out a herald while you're getting swarmed by a really nasty pack, this works extremely well. And also, even though it does override Amplify damage, it will not override Amplify on the heralds, elites, and champion packs, because they're not affected by the Frighten. So this is really, really good at dispersing those enemies and then being able to focus on your target with Whirlwind. We max Battle Orders, of course. Everyone knows that. Huge boost to life and mana. Really helpful. You don't run out of mana as quickly when teleporting. That's huge. Warcry. This is important for stunning enemies. I also think it's very important for Baal Waves. Just generally, I think you should have this. It just adds to the versatility of the Barbarian. And of course, Shout's always good. Battle Command's always good. Extra defense, extra +1 skills. You got to run those. So all the war cries, at least 1 point for your Whirlwind. Then with the Mastery, so I explained that I'm using a sword and an axe. And personally, I think you should max your Blade Mastery. Firstly, because Grief's doing the main damage. Secondly, it's for our Alley Barbers on swap. Then I recommend getting your Axe Mastery with BO to 28%, which would be level 16. That's when it starts costing you 2 points for each % of critical strike. But and then of course 1 point to increase stamina, increase speed, iron skin, natural resistance. If you have some spare points and you're still short on resistance, you can still bump up your natural resistance if that's going to help you through progression. And then with the combat skills, I do enjoy double swing. It can be useful if you've run out of mana and you need to quickly strike targets. So I recommend having at least a point into double swing, 1 into berserk. Sometimes even if an enemy, for example, maybe you can't amplify them, maybe they still have a high physical damage reduction, berserk can still be good. It's also really good if it's just a single target there and you want to quickly slap them down. That's very useful without having to commit to a whirlwind. And then of course the rest of our points into whirlwind. Now you could opt for 1 point axe mastery and maxing out whirlwind instead, but this is my preference. And the reason I'd rather you go for your mastery over whirlwind is that you're getting more damage and attack rating per point. Whirlwind's only giving you 5% damage, and I think it's 8% attack rating per point or something, but it's just not as good, and it also makes your whirlwind cost more mana. So I would rather you go for your masteries. And so those are the skills. Here is the next point I wanted to make, is that I wanted to offset the physical damage received somehow. And because I'm using Beast, when on swap while I'm preparing to fight stuff and doing pre-buff, I decided to make a Metamorphosis. So I can quickly put that on my Barb, and I'll show you a bit of gameplay of how it works. So we turn into our bear, we get our Mark of the Bear, which gives us 25 IS, which we don't need, we've hit the break point, but we get that 20% physical damage reduced. So if you have a imperfect bone break, it'll at least offset that for you, which is really helpful. So that lasts 180 seconds, and that should get you through an area pretty solidly. So you hit that, you do your Prebuff. I also happen to put 3 BO on this helm, so it's a little bit better than this one. And there we go, we start riding. So hitting that stuff, quick hawk, another elite dead, quick hawk, moving on. So you might have noticed that our mercenary kind of overrides the amplify damage with battle cry, which isn't too bad of a thing, because firstly, it's still a good ability, but secondly, he attacks so frequently that the amplify damage gets reprocced, and even with that discrepancy and it having some downtime, I still think it's stronger than using a Might or a Mercenary. It just makes the game so much smoother, especially at lower player counts. And at higher player counts, there's also a very high probability that you're playing with someone that is using a Might or a Mercenary already. And so that's why I would also opt for Beast over, say, Last Wish. And secondly, Last Wish is also really expensive, and it's, you know, in ladder it can be really difficult to achieve that. I just wanted to go over some final progression items with you guys. By the time you get to the absolute final end game with this setup, if you have all the best charms, the new Sunder Charm with extra ED, you're looking at about 160k DPS Whirlwind, which is halved against bosses due to their block rate. But it's absolutely insane how much damage the Whirlwind Barb is doing now. And so I started off with some basic items. So I originally had just whatever I could find, good damage weapons. I moved up to having a Unbending Will at some point, which rolled quite well, and this is actually in a superior base. But so that's a good progression item. And then I moved up to having a Red Fang. Red Fang, obviously, that was for our amplify damage, but originally I was doing Whirlwind with Frenzy before I had Enigma. So I was running Frenzy, moving around quickly, Frenzy to build up speed, double swing if I needed to, and then I'd hit the amp and then start Whirlwinding. After that, my progression went from that to moving towards Grief. So then I had a Grief and a Dread Fang. And then after that, I just found I found a Death Cleaver and decided to put a Protector Stone in it, and that actually works really well. I really like the damage, but the Grief plus the beast does end up being stronger, but I'm going to keep my hands on this one because I think it's really nice for PvP. I'd also argue that maybe the Protector Stone in a non-eth one is actually better than the Zotted ones now, who knows, but it's definitely really good. And on my helm, I was using Coven, and I still think this is a great option due to the lethargy when struck, and also you get more to your battle orders, and you easily get your 20 FCR. It also rolls MF, so this was a really nice item until I got this, the circlet. Horizon's Boots was how I was getting my Cannot Be Frozen after I had first found Trangol's Belt. They're also good options for Cannot Be Frozen. There's also Death Sash, and that's if you really want to avoid using Ravenfrost because the cold damage on Ravenfrost will shatter your corpses, and that's not fun. But once I had a 2-socket helm, I could cham it, and I could move on to this setup that I have now. And yeah, slowly but surely, I found my Laying of Hands, I found my High Lords, eventually made Enigma, and then once I found War Travelers, I knew I could swap between that or Gore Riders when wanting to do more damage. And so yeah, that's the setup, and let me know what you guys think. Honestly, if you haven't played Melee, you're missing out. Give it a go. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want. I'm going to keep making videos. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/nafz, NAFZ. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. There's been so much support on the channel. It's been awesome. Cheers.